Hey guys, how are you today? Quick rant before we dive into today's chaos. As some of you might have noticed, YouTube's algorithm has decided I'm not special anymore. Shocking, I know. So now if you don't like, comment, or do a little backflip in the algorithm's honor, this video might just vanish into the void, never to be seen again. Seriously though, even a hi or "this is wild" in the comments helps way more than you think. It tells YouTube, hey, people actually like this channel. Maybe don't hide it from everyone. That can really help push my videos out to a wider audience, not just to my subscribers. So if you enjoy these stories and want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it. Now grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the drama. You won't want to miss this one. Hello Redditors. I have been thinking for a long time to put this out on the internet, but then I overthink it and stop. But now I'm determined to write it all down. My grandmother threw my mom out on the streets, and I am all in for it. Yes, you read that right. Now, before you all judge me, I want you all to read it to the end and then give your honest opinion. If you still think that I'm an a-hole like my mom thinks, then maybe I have to reflect on my actions some more. But I think I did the right thing. So please read on. I am Rebecca, 18 female. My mother is Jenna, 40 female, and she married her high school sweetheart, my father, Liam, after he started teaching at a school near my grandma's home. After their wedding, they moved in with my grandma, and that is the place where I was born and have been raised. When I was 11 years old, my father passed away. It was very hard on me, and I think I lost a piece of myself since the day I lost my father. My mother, surprisingly, has coped really well. A week after my father died, she went out to a party with her friends, and my grandmother has been nothing but supportive about it. She said that there's no point in being cooped up in your room, and moving on is as much a part of life as death. After my father's death, my mother rarely stayed home. I have felt lonely and abandoned, and through it all, my grandmother has been with me. She comforted me and said that I have to understand that people have different ways of dealing with grief, and my mom's was running away from the person who reminded her most of her loss. My grandmother is the kindest woman I know, and she wanted nothing more than healing for our family. On the days when my mother left me alone, my grandmother would take me out for walks and ice creams and read out vivid fairy tales to me. The vacuum that my parents left in my life was filled by none other than my grandmother. As you all can make out by now, my mother and I stayed with our grandmother even after Dad's passing away. My grandmother was kind enough to let us live with her in her house. Even though Mom did not have a job, and I was a moody teenager, she never ever made it seem like she was doing a favor. She simply said that we can stay with her if we wanted, because I reminded her of her son, and after her son is dead, she sees no reason to throw out the people whom Liam loved. Like I said, my mom does not have a job, and neither does she have any property under her name. The house is under my grandmother's name, and there is another small apartment that my grandmother owns. We rent out that flat and thus get an income from that. I used to work as a waitress in a local cafe while studying to become a nurse. I think I will manage to start working when I'm 22. But till then, I wanted to do something to supplement Grandma's income. But the first time I gave Grandma something from my earnings to use for the house, she would not take it. She wants me to save or invest in something that will have returns. I've always hated how Mom takes Granny's behavior for granted. I've asked her many times to apply for jobs, and her only response has been, "Why?" I do not need to. Your granny has enough money to see us through. And if we run into difficulties, we can always use your dad's savings. I would then remind her that Dad saved up money for my education, and using it up for anything else would be a disrespect to his departed soul. She would then shout, "Don't teach me what to do. I'm your mother. Stop getting brainwashed by that old hag. You will do as I say. Do you understand?" I have gradually come to realize that my mom is nothing but a narcissist. I never told her that I work and earn, because otherwise she would definitely ask for money. And I do not know if any of you will relate, but I guess despite everything, it's very difficult to say no to your own mother. The day we learn to say no is the day a lot of abuse ends. I realized this very late, but I am glad I did. When I was a kid, I saw Mom taking out money from Granny's purse, too. When I was young, she would say things like, "It's our little secret. If you don't tell Granny, then I will buy you a little treat." Later on, when I was older, and knew it was not just a secret but a dirty secret, and I asked her what was going on. Then she said something like, "Obviously, Granny knows that she's taking money, and it's not even taking, but borrowing. Also, that I should stop being nosy." I didn't expose my mother, but I got Granny to install cameras inside and outside the house, except the bedrooms. Granny always kept her purse in a secret drawer, which was in the living room for security reasons, and told her how there have been a lot of robberies recently. My mom was so angry at me that she stopped talking to me. I asked her why she was worried, because obviously grandmother knew that she was taking money. So installing the camera shouldn't affect her in any way. She couldn't even come up with a proper excuse and just said that she wished I had died at birth. Hearing your mother say that she wishes you were dead is a different kind of hurt. I had then realized how nobody loved me as much as my grandmother did. We stopped talking altogether after that incident. My mom didn't apologize, and neither did she seem to regret her comment. She never took any notice of me or Granny and stayed out most of the time. She never told us where she was or who she was with. As a child, this used to drive me crazy. I worried what would happen to me if I lost my mom too. But growing up, I have realized that the woman I called mom had absolutely zero maternal instincts towards me. We just cohabited and nothing else. I got a scholarship and went on to study BSN. I left home and stayed at a hostel. I called Grandma every day and sometimes came home on weekends. During this time, I rarely met my mom. Sometimes my grandma told me bits and pieces about my mother. During one such conversation, she said that her mom might move out because she thinks that she's seeing someone. A man came yesterday to pick Mom up, and even though Mom never talks to Grandma, but the man did. He introduced himself as George, 42, male, and said that he was there to pick Jenna up for a date and asked Granny if she was the caretaker of the house. Grandma said that she was really surprised that Mom didn't tell the man that they lived in her house and wondered if the guy even knew about Liam or not. Grandma said, "Becca, see, it doesn't matter that your mom doesn't tell people that she lives in my house. You know, I really don't care about such things. But don't you think it's a bit strange that this man knew the address of our house, but not the fact that I'm her mother-in-law? I wonder if that man knows about Liam. Well, if they are considering something serious, and Jenna has not told them about her previous marriage, then I wonder how she's going to explain her relationship with you." I agreed with Grandma. She did have a good point, but I shrugged it off and said that maybe Mom isn't serious, and joked that if she is, then I probably have to stop visiting, and Grandma has to learn to play the part of a caretaker. We laughed and didn't think much of it at that time. While talking to Grandma a month or so later, Grandma told me that Mom is serious about George and even brought him home one time. He stayed the night and even for breakfast. During breakfast, he said to Jenna, "Well, don't you get the creeps being surrounded by all these dead man's things?" My grandma instantly said, "That dead man is my son and her late husband." The dead man's name is Liam, and you will talk with respect about my son as long as you are under my roof. Apparently, Mom changed the subject, and George soon left. But after George left, Mom turned to Grandma and blamed her for being stuck up and hating her. She also said that George is low-key right, and my dad's things are useless junk and that they should have a yard sale or something. My grandma told her over my grave. I was so ashamed of what my mom did that I apologized. Grandma said not to worry too much about it. Probably all of them overreacting a little bit. And she's sure that Jenna understands, and she will never throw away Dad's things. Unlike Grandma, I was not so sure. And as it turned out, I was right about that. I went to visit my grandma the next month. Grandma knew I was coming, but I don't think Mom did. Grandma had said over the call that she would keep the key in the bird box and that I should let myself in because she would be out in the afternoon meeting up with her church friends. Grandma had also said that she would be back home for dinner and that she would cook spaghetti for me herself. So she had to go shopping as well. Since I had no desire to meet my mother and knew that Grandma would be late, I arrived late in the afternoon. What I saw then shocked me beyond imagination. I saw my mom and her boyfriend. I assumed this because I had never met George before, bringing out some bags. I parked my car opposite our house so that they couldn't see me, but I could. A bag accidentally slipped from George's hands, and my father's antique music box fell out. I put two and two together and immediately realized what was happening. They were throwing away Dad's things. Without wasting 1 minute, I turned my car and went in search of Grandma. Thankfully, I knew where to look for her because I knew where she shopped to make my food. I reached the mall and waited near the exit, hoping that I had not missed her. And, to my favor, soon enough, I saw Grandma coming out of the mall with one of her church friends. I waved at her to come over, and initially she was confused and went like, "My dear, you didn't have to pick me up. I could have gone back with Agnes here. You should have rested. What's the matter? Why do you look so worried?" To all her queries, I could just say, "Get in the car now." The urgency in my voice must have made an impact because she did get in the car and didn't ask any questions on the drive back. When we reached our house, my mom and George had all my father's things lined up outside. They were having a yard sale. My grandma stormed out of the car and just stood in front of them. George was the first one to see her and said cheerfully, "Oh, hey, I'm moving in. Do you know we're selling all the old things? You know, some people are really weird and would pay a good amount for some of these things. They're vintage or something." My grandma looked at my mom and asked her really sternly to put the things back. Mom said something about how they were just trash and taking up unnecessary space. My grandma was too stunned to speak, so I stepped up. "But Mom, they are Dad's things. They are the only things that we have of him. I don't want you to throw them out." My mom chimed in. "That is exactly why we should definitely throw it out. Nobody seems to be moving on from Liam's death in this house except me. It's so depressing. That's why I thought that if George moves in with us, we can replace these things with George's things, so it won't feel empty, and we will also earn quite a decent sum of money." My grandma said that it was not about moving on, but about respecting and remembering the dead. She reminded my mom how encouraging she has been of my mother going out and enjoying her life, and how she has saved enough to help pay for my school, and that she was an old woman to whom memories of her son were much more important than so-called moving on. She then went on to state that it was, after all, her house. Nobody could do anything without asking her. In this case, she wanted her son's things to be put right back. When George and Mom didn't budge, she turned to me and I immediately said about it. She then turned to George and said that if he wants to stay on with Jenna, he can move in with her in the flat that we have rented out. We can give notice to the renters and ask them to move out, but they will have to pay rent in this case. George seemed to refocus and looked slightly out of balance. He asked stupidly, "Rent?" My grandma said, "Yeah, big boy. If you are grown enough to move in with a woman, that means you're ready to take responsibility for that woman as well." I did everything for Jenna because I felt a sense of responsibility for my son's wife. Now she has chosen someone to take care of her. I'm totally not paying for your day-to-day needs, and I barely know you. The only thing I can do for you is rent out my flat to you. George looked dumber than ever when he said, "But I don't have a job." Jenna said, "I can move in here, and you and your granddaughter will take care of everything." I laughed in his face. "What? Wait a minute. So that's the plan, Mom? You want me and Granny to sustain you and your freeload of boyfriend? What a damn joke." George and Mom looked at each other, and then Mom started a scene. She cried and screamed and said that we were horrible, stuck people, and that we couldn't bear to see her happy, and that she always felt stifled in the house amongst all of my father's things. She called Granny an old hag, who is super cheapskate and is jealous of her happiness. I asked Mom to shut up because despite knowing that she stole from Granny's purse, Granny never said a word about it. My mother said that the only reason she had to steal was because she was coping with Dad's death. She then said, "Oh God, I'm done. I'm going to go take a nap. I feel my migraine coming. George, you should go home." My granny stopped my mom from going inside and said, "Well, you can go in, but you can't stay. I want you to pack your bags and leave with your jobless boyfriend." My mom screamed that it was unfair and that Grandma couldn't seriously be doing that to her. My grandma asked George to help Mom pack, and she said that if they didn't leave within an hour, then she was about to call the police. Mom was hysterical. She started begging Grandma to let her stay because she had no place to go, because George had been thrown out by his landlord for not paying the rent. Grandma said that she doesn't see how it's her concern in any way. She said, "If you don't move out right now, then I will call the cops and charge both of you with vandalism." At this, George stepped in and said that he would get the bags. Within half an hour, George and Mom were done packing their things, and I had managed to put back on my father's things in their rightful place. I was watching Mom and George leave from my porch when I overheard their conversation. Mom was following George when he suddenly turned around and said to Mom, "Where do you think you're going?" "Mom, what do you mean? We have to find a place to stay. Didn't you just see what happened?" George, "Yeah, I do have a place to stay. I'll crash in a friend's basement." "You can't come with me. And also, I don't think we should be seeing each other anymore." Mom, "Wait, what? Seriously? You're breaking up with me because you couldn't move in with me in my dead husband's room?" George, "Well, that's a large part of it for sure. Anyway, ciao." My mom stared as George left on his bike. She turned around and saw me on the porch. I smiled sweetly at her and waved, and then I strolled and went back inside the house and closed the door pretty damn loud. My mom kept ringing my phone all evening. I finally blocked her number after dinner to have some quiet and peace. I was very sure that she would probably spend the night on the streets, but I felt zero sympathy. I mean, that woman belonged on the streets. I went to my dad's room and started putting his things back in place. I really missed him. I was taking out his things one by one when I stumbled across a black leather-bound diary. I opened it and saw that it was my dad's diary. I had no idea that my dad kept a diary. My mom had never said anything about it. I suddenly had a strong urge to read it. I just kind of wanted to see the world through Dad's eyes. But most importantly, I wanted to see if he had written anything about me. I began reading. Some entries were normal daily things, and some had incidents in them. He wrote about the day my mom and he got married, and the way he described the day made me tear up. His entries about his deployment were really painful. I had to keep it down to stop myself from crying. Then there were entries about his coming back from deployment. He wrote about how happy he felt about coming back to his wife and how he missed being affectionate. The next few entries were all about Mom and how much he loved her. And then came the entry that rocked my world. The entry was about how he found out about Mom's infidelity. He had come home early from work to surprise her. He had bought flowers and her favorite food. Grandma was usually out in the afternoons to go to her book club or to meet her church friends. When he arrived, he saw a car parked outside. He unlocked the door with his key and walked in on Mom and her boyfriend kissing. He was absolutely shattered. He wrote that he packed his bag and left. He didn't say a word. He just left. He checked into a hotel and stayed there for 2 days. Then he got a call from Jenna asking him to come back because he was going to be a father and he had some responsibilities. Dad said that he doesn't think that the baby is his. She said that she was sure that it was his, and that after the birth they could do a paternity test, and if it turns out that it's not his baby, then he could do as he pleases. He describes the next few months as full of turmoil and pain. He then wrote about the day I was born. He wrote in that entry that when he saw my little hand, he felt like he had known me for an eternity and just didn't care if I was his baby or not. He just wanted to be my father, and he had never been more sure of something in his life. He later wrote that Jenna was forcing him to take a paternity test, and he had no choice but to take it, and it turned out that Mom was right. I was indeed his daughter. He wrote that even though that was a good thing, but even if I wasn't, he would have continued looking after me, because I seemed to be really fond of him, and he was absolutely ready for fatherhood. In all the entries till the day he died, he wrote about me. He wrote about my achievements, my firsts, my sweet things, and on days there was nothing significant. He wrote, "Today was an uneventful day. Rebecca continues to behave like an angel. I can't believe I'm her father. I got so lucky. She's such a good child." Page after page, all he wrote about was his daughter. After I finished his diary, I realized that before this, I had never felt his loss so acutely. The next morning, I was on my way to the supermarket when Mom stopped me. She got inside my car, and before I could scream at her to get out, she begged me to listen to her. She began, "Listen, Becca, you are my daughter, my blood. Your mother lived on the streets for the first time in her life. I can't tell you how hard it is." I told her that it was hard and she deserved it. She pretended not to hear me and continued, "I know you're angry, but please talk to your grandma. You're the only person she'll listen to." I looked at her for a long time, and then asked her if it was George with whom she was cheating on my father with. She was shocked and denied it, and then asked how I even knew about it. She went quiet after that. I told her that I do not respect her, and that I think she's anything but a mom. And from that day onwards, I was going to call her Jenna. She looked at me with a baffled expression, but decided it was best not to comment and held her tongue. We were silent for a while, and then she asked, "Will you talk to your grandma about letting me in the house?" I said I would, but I had one condition. She had to get a job in approximately a month, and then if Grandma chose to forgive her, she would have to pay for the groceries every month. I also specified that until she got a job, she had to continue living on the streets. My mom had no choice but to agree. Am I an a-hole for letting my mother sleep on the streets? Am I being too tough on her? I do not know, guys. You tell me. Not the a-hole. OP's mother wasn't down on her luck. She was actively destroying OP's grandmother's home, stealing money, disrespecting OP's dead father, and trying to move her unemployed leech of a boyfriend into a house she didn't own or contribute to. She didn't just cross boundaries, she bulldozed them. Actions have consequences. Sleeping on the streets wasn't too tough. It was literally the natural result of her choices. OP protected her grandma, her father's memory, and herself. And now let's hear community's opinion. Your grandmother is an absolute queen, and she handled this with more grace, restraint, and wisdom than most people ever could. She raised you, protected you, and preserved your father's memory. Meanwhile, your mother acted like a teenager whose life revolves around attention, men, and money she didn't earn. Getting a job, paying for groceries, and signing a simple agreement is not punishment. It's finally being held to the basic standards of an adult human being. Not the a-hole. This wasn't kicking a struggling mother when she's down. This was stopping a grown woman from exploiting her family until there was nothing left to take. She was about to literally throw away your dead father's belongings to make room for a jobless boyfriend. That alone is unforgivable. Then add the emotional abuse, the stealing, the manipulation, the tantrums, and the complete lack of accountability. She's lucky anyone gave her a second chance at all. You didn't put her on the streets, her behavior did, not the a-hole, honestly. I'm amazed you turned out as grounded and compassionate as you are with a mother like that. Calling you a burden, stealing from her own mother-in-law, trying to replace your dad with some random guy, and wishing you were never born. That's not a tough mom. That's emotional neglect and abuse. You set boundaries that she should have faced years ago. And now she finally has a job, contributes to the house, and treats your grandma like a human being. That's not because she learned magically. It's because she got consequences. You're absolutely not the a-hole, and you may have saved her life. Update 1. Hello guys. Thank you for all your comforting comments. Also, yes, I called my mom throughout the entire narrative. It is so hard to let go of a habit, but every time I see her on the streets, I make it a point to call her Jenna. I know she hates it. I have been frequently visiting Granny after the incident took place, and sometimes I run into Jenna. I sometimes give her food and a little bit of money. A fortnight has passed since the incident, and today, Jenna stopped my car and told me she found a job. She got the job of a cashier at the supermarket. I told her that it was great and that now I wanted her to write down an apology to grandmother. I told her to mention that she would be paying for the groceries from then on. After she was done writing, I told her that I would give this letter to grandmother and let her decide. I took the letter to Granny that day itself and told her not to be lenient and to take the groceries. Granny said she agreed, but she had a condition, and that condition was that Mom should not touch anything that belonged to Liam. She had actively lost Grandma's trust, and I thought it only made sense if she gave a written statement about that as well and signed it. So I made Mom sign this. I already vandalized my husband's property once, but I will not do it again. If I do it again, you are free to call the cops on me. She told me that we were overdoing it, and that this was childish, but I told her that she would only be able to stay in the house if she signed it. So Jenna had no choice but to sign it. Now it was all up to Granny's decision. Update 2. My Granny took a week to decide, but she did finally agree to let Mom move in. She warned Mom that if she backed away from even one condition, then she could start living on the streets again. My mom nodded meekly. I have never seen her shut up like this before. I'm glad she finally realizes what happens when you take the things around you for granted. I'm hoping that she manages to keep her job. If she loses it, then it's game over for her, and I definitely will not save her from getting fired or from getting thrown out on the streets again. A visible change has come over Jenna. She wakes up early these days and makes coffee for Granny. And if I stay over, then she makes it for me too. She's probably trying to rework her image, and not going to lie, I like it. After being treated like a non-existent entity for most of my childhood, this was a long time coming. Update 3. Hey Redditors, it has been 3 months since my last update. How are you guys doing? I was really busy with my exams and everything. I felt like I would pass out from all the stress, and I forgot to give you guys an update, but no worries. I'm back with an update. Jenna did not lose her job, and she pays for the groceries now. She does not ignore Grandma anymore, and treats her way better. She takes Granny to her doctor appointments and drops her off at her book club or meets. She even came to talk to me. She said that she was really sorry for the way I feel, and that she would like it if I forgave her, and went back to calling her mother. I said it's not easy to pretend that nothing happened, and that I would continue calling her Jenna until I feel like she is being a mother to me. She sighed and left the room. I've been feeling the weight of what she once told me, that she wished I had not been born. So, I finally decided to seek professional help. I started my therapy journey, and so far it's going well. There is a lot of unresolved emotion inside me that I have to accept and deal with, including my father's death. During the first session, I cried like a baby. Finding my dad's diary increased my sense of loss. My therapist told me to take it in a different way and think about how loved I was. So, I'm definitely not as unlovable as I feel. I'm satisfied with how things are going. I hope this continues. Update 4. Hello. This will be my last update on this post. Things are going well. Jenna has become a lot more responsible and mature. I topped my section, guys. Jenna and Grandma want to see me getting the honors for this. I had tears in my eyes. Jenna took a picture with me and uploaded it to Facebook with the caption, "A proud mama with her daughter. P.S. She makes me proud every day." I don't know how to react to this new love for me. I'm still suspicious of her, but wow, can you blame me? Also, George came over. He told Jenna that he was ready to continue the relationship again. I laughed in his face and called him a loser. And if that wasn't enough, Grandma gave him a $20 bill and asked him to never show his face again, and that he could take the money and go, because that's what he's after anyway. I thought George would show some class and at least not take that money. But dude, he pocketed it and drove away. I was like, boy, how low can one go? Oh yeah, I just realized that in the last line I called Jenna Mom. Well, I guess that's a sign that our relationship is healing. Hoping for the best. Bye, guys.